know the feeling, right? You need to buy a new charging cable. You go to Amazon or Shopee, Lazada, if you're here in Asia. You type, I don't know, USB-C cable, and the first 10 results, if you're nice, are from brands you've never heard of. I know, Sinlan USB cable, cablers, cause cable, Fistech, whatever, all with like 4.8 stars, 12,000 reviews that all sound like they were written by the same enthusiastic bot, right? You scroll like past the 3 pages of sponsored junk just to find the brand you were actually looking for. Now, you didn't just have a bad shopping experience right here. You were actively fighting a system designed to waste your time. You were navigating sludge. You were being enshittified. And this feeling, this digital exhaustion, is the defining user experience of the modern internet. Why? Sawadee Cup, and welcome to another episode here for the FunDepot Mindful Media and Communication, the podcast where we put on our, theoretical goggles to make sense of the media world that seems determined to make no sense at all at times. And today we're talking about something you have all felt, even if you didn't have a name for it just yet. It's the creeping, undeniable sensation that all online services you used to love are getting worse. Yeah, your Google search, it's clogged with SEO spam. And yes, I'm hating, and I'm allowed to hate because that's what I was working in before I went into academics and actually still teach those things, the SEO. Your Facebook feed, if you're my parents, if you're that old, right? Your Facebook feed has more ads than friends. Same goes for IG. Your streaming service cancels its best shows for a tax write-off. And for all this makes you go, oh. There is a fantastic, if slightly vulgar term for this phenomenon, coined by, what is he? A writer, researcher, opinionist, speaker, Cory Doctorow. If you don't know Cory Doctorow, Google Cory Doctorow. I've seen him first talk about things like that, I'm guessing 15 years ago or so, at a Republica conference in Berlin, Germany. And he calls this whole thing Enshittification. And I love this word. So, Cory, I hope it's okay if I borrow this term. He's been using this term for a long time. But today, I want to add something to his point of view. I want to argue that it isn't just about, corporate greed or bad business. It's something deeper, like more fundamental. It's a breakdown in communication ethics. And to understand that, we don't just need a tech writer from 2023. We need a German philosopher from the 80s. Because what we're experiencing right now is what Jürgen Habermas, if you pay attention, you know that guy, is what Jürgen Habermas warned us about decades ago. The colonization of our digital lives. So let's establish the pattern, okay? Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Yeah, Cory Doctorow lays out a 3-stage process for how platforms die. Stage 1. They are good to their users. They shower you with a good service to get you hooked. Cool, right? Nice. Stage 2. They abuse their users to benefit their business customers. Your data is sold, your feed is filled with ads. Feels familiar? No. Stage 3, they abuse their business customers to claw back all the value for themselves. Yeah, they check up ad prices, take a larger cut, and will suck the life out of the ecosystem. Sounds familiar? And this isn't just Amazon, by the way, if the first thought would go to Amazon or any of those big companies. It's other big platforms as well. Think about Reddit. For years, it was this haven for niche communities, right? Powered by like fantastic third-party apps like, what's they called, like Apollo, for example, that users actually loved, right? But then 2 years ago, Reddit implemented API changes that effectively killed those third-party apps, forcing everyone into their, let's call it like it is, inferior ad-riddled official app. And the goal wasn't a better user experience, it was total control in preparation for what? For their IPO, right? So the users who built the communities, the value of the platform, they were treated like collateral damage, like, well, okay, we don't need it anymore, we don't want it anymore, whatever happens to you, good riddance. Or, hey, what about food delivery? Whether it's Grab, especially here in Thailand, Uber Eats, Food Panda, the experience is the same. You open the app and you are not shown the nearest or the best restaurants. You're shown the featured restaurants that will pay for ad placement, right? Then you get to the checkout and face like a gauntlet of fees, platform fees, service fees, small order fee. For each one, a tiny, like it feels like a tiny little paper cut designed to bleed you out slowly. And don't get me started on LinkedIn. Like, chances are high you're either listening to this thanks to my LinkedIn article that came along with this. But LinkedIn, a professional network, right? That has to evolve into a like bizarre content mill of hustle culture sermons and like corporate fan fiction. All why? Because, well, the algorithm rewards that specific brand of self-aggrandizing nonsense, like how awesome we all are, right? The platform it's no longer a tool, it's a stage for a very strange performance, to be honest. And so the enshittification here is one of culture and content, I want to say. So in every case, the story is the same. The platform lures you in with a promise of utility or community. And then once your dependency is locked in, the walls close in and the quality degrades. It's a classic, like, bait and switch, executed on like, well, the global World Wide Web scale. Okay, now as promised or threatened, German philosopher enters the stage. Not me, it's Jürgen Habermas. Yeah, he's a key figure in like the critical theory realm. And Habermas gave us a powerful analogy for understanding society. He said it's split in two parts. First, there's, in German, the word would be Lebenswelt. So in English, it's called life world. So think of it as like a public park. Like Habermas is always about the public sphere, right? So think of a public park. It's the space for informal, organic human communication. It's where you chat with friends, debate ideas, build communities, share jokes and so on. The goal in the park is mutual understanding, connection, social bonding. Then secondly, there's the system, okay? Think of the system as a factory next to the park. It's the world of strategic action driven by logic, like, logic of money, like the economy, logic of power, the state. So the goal of the factory isn't to make friends. It's to maximize efficiency, profit, control. Now, Habermas, his great fear was what he called the colonization of the life world. So this is when the factory owner decides he needs more space. So he starts paving over the public park to build more production lines, parking lots, and so on. Yet that now the cold instrumental logic of the factory invades and replaces the warm, nice communicative space of the park. So now back to life, back to reality. The early internet, right, felt like a massive infinite public park, a huge expansion of that life world, so to speak. But eventually it changed, and the enshittification is the final victory of the factory over the park. Yeah, let's talk about Amazon again for just a moment. The Amazon marketplace is no longer a space for you to find the best product, park conversation, right? It's space for the Amazon's factory to extract maximum profit by selling real estate to the highest bidder. Your Facebook feed, again, talk about our parents, is no longer for seeing your nephew's birthday photos, which would be a park connection. It's a, I want to say, even hostile factory floor where the logic of the system manipulates you for engagement and ad revenue, right? So the platform's original promise, connection, information, community, was a life world promise. The enshittified reality is like a system reality. And here's now a crucial insight from a different field again, platform studies. Scholars like, for example, Gillespie, if you're into platform studies, point out that platforms must constantly perform this delicate balancing act. They have to communicate the values of the life world, like we are an open public square, we are a cool community, everybody's welcome, blah, blah, while operating entirely on the logic of the system. And enshittification basically is what happens when they drop the act and when we can see through it. So if now what Habermas was scared of, if the colonization is happening, right? How does it communicate itself to us? It does so through friction, confusion, probably also exhaustion. Basically, it does it through the sludge, okay? Sludge is like this deliberate creation of administrative design or friction. Well, you design friction. We are mostly based on administrative tasks. And we can actually break down the communication strategies behind that. It's kind of sad. The first step is like, usually there's what we call obfuscation. So this is when privacy settings are written in dense legalese and spread across like 12 different sub-menus. The message there is, this is too complicated for you. Don't even try to understand it. Just say, okay. Just don't even change anything, right? Then there's forced choice and what we then call confirm shaming. When an app says, agree to tracking in a big friendly green button, but manage settings is like in a tiny gray font like on the bottom. Or when a pop-up asks you to subscribe and no option is something like, no, thank you, I'd rather not be informed, right? It's manipulative communication. And it's a tactic that frames user privacy as a negative choice, for example. It's all down to communication theories. And finally, there's this simple aesthetic manipulation as well. The use of confusing layouts, distracting pop-ups, pre-checked boxes. That's not just poor design. That's a form of communication rooted in deception. It's the digital equivalent of like a fast-talking salesman trying to confuse you into signing something. Yeah, the overall maybe cumulative hardware for German message of that the sludge that we just discussed is basically your time is worthless. Your agency is an illusion. Resistance is futile. Just click that sponsor link here. Click it, click it, click it, click it, click it, click it. It's a form of it's a form of corporate gaslighting that makes the user, us, feel pretty powerless. So all that said now, right? Are we doomed to scroll through, the digital sludge forever? Is there any way to fight back? Well, I think that's where it gets interesting, because we are seeing attempts to rebuild the park. Think of the Reddit example, right? There were some API protests where the entire communities just went dark to protest the platform's changes. It was a massive, a collective act of communicative withdrawal. It ultimately failed, of course, because Reddit's too big, but it showed that the users wouldn't be colonized quietly. That we don't go into the dark quietly. And we're also seeing a slow but a steady migration to what some call the small web or the Fediverse. People are reviving personal blogs. Hey, read my blog, it's awesome. Setting up own community-run mastodons, for example, using RSS feeds again, back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Those are all conscious attempts to create non-commercial, non-systemic spaces. And they're trying to de-pave the parking lot and to plant some new trees, maybe. But this now leads me to the central, maybe cynical question. Can these alternatives, can they truly scale? Or is it, is this enshittification and an iron law of platform physics? Does any platform that becomes successful enough to matter inevitably attract thank you, Spooky, the colonizing logic of the system? Is it a choice, or is it that's your choice, Spooky? Is it a choice, or is it inevitable, right? That's the question. So perhaps the goal isn't to build one new perfect park, but to cultivate thousands of small independent gardens. Because, the big parks, it seems, always end up looking like factories. Hey, that's all for this episode of the Funky Pod, Mindful Media and Communication. If you enjoyed this critique, I might say, of platform capitalism, consider leaving. Okay, now I'm getting capitalistic. Consider leaving a review. 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars. It makes more sense when you're in Thailand. Leave a comment. Let me know how you feel about the platform politics. Do you give in? Do you try to fight it? Do you have a garden somewhere? Shout out at FunkyPod on social media. Until then, stay safe. Take care. Don't forget to leave a review and a 5-star rating on any app that you're listening to this podcast to, if you can find the button that is. Until then, we talk soon. Sawadee Krap.